can go ahead and get started with our meeting. And the first order of business is roll call. So let's start. I'll go ahead and do that.
Frank Garcia.
Here.
Supervisor Judy Begay.
I'm here.
Lisa Gainey.
Here.
Corey Hartman. Here. Catherine Moore.
Here.
Beth Verstreet.
And at the moment, so we've still got our vacant vice chair position. We'll need to put that on a future board meeting to get that elected. And then if you had a moment to look over the minutes for the October meeting, if not, you can take a minute, should be attached to the email that Starla sent. Once everybody's comfortable with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any negative votes on that? All right, so that motion carries. And then the next order of business is that we do have a new board member that will be joining us today, and that person is Katie Quick. Katie, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi,
Hi.
everybody. Happy to be here.
Yes, nice to have you. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to the library?
Yeah, so like I said, my name's Katie. I am a Flagstaff resident of the past 2 years. My partner moved up here for work. My connection to the library is that it was the second place that I visited once we found our house, because I needed to know how far it was to bike. And I was very happy to find that I am smack in the middle of both 4th Street and downtown. I'm about a 10-minute bike ride from both, which is awesome. And I've been using libraries as a place to just go and study and hang out and find community since I was about 4 or 5 years old. And now I have a 2-year-old myself, so we are at both libraries several times a week. So yeah, when I saw the opening, I jumped at the chance to get involved.
Good deal. We are so happy to have you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. So let's go ahead and start with our director's report. Linda, you can go ahead and get started on that.
Okay, Frank, before I do that, do you think we should do introductions so Katie knows who people are? Because we also have Lauren, who's new to this meeting.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. Did I get...
No, that's all right. It occurred to me, and I thought maybe we could do that now, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that would be a fabulous idea. So I will just, how about if I just call names and people can introduce themselves in the order that I've got them here on the agenda, and then I'll go last. So Supervisor Begay, would you like to start by introducing yourself briefly to Katie?
Yes. Yes. Welcome, and thank you for showing interest, Katie, into the vacant position. I really appreciate that. Any organization or department that is got committees together, they really need people to represent, certain areas or a department or whatever. So, and I know it takes away from things, but I just want to say thank you. My name is Judy Begay, and I'm originally from Coal Mine Mesa, which is east of Tuba City, and been board supervisor for the past 2 years and possibly 9 months. So I just want to say that I enjoy my job. We're very busy, 7 days a week at times, and don't have any time for ourselves, it seems like. So So anyway, I just want to say thank you everyone for being on the board too, and you mean a lot to a lot of people out there in the community because that's where they resort to, to find knowledge and also to do their homework or things like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy. And then Lisa?
I don't know if you can see me, but because I don't know where it is, but hi. It's no big deal. But hi, I'm Lisa Gainey. I recently, I joined this year to this the library board, and I've been a Flagstaff resident for 40 years this year. I moved out here to go to grad school at NAU and kind of never left. And so I've been here a long time, and like you, I've been an avid library fan for my whole life, pretty much. And I'm retired from working at Northern Arizona University, and I'm really happy to contribute whatever I can to this committee.
Sorry about that. I muted myself. Corey.
Hi, Katie. Welcome. I'm Corey Hartman. I work in education, and I've been in Flagstaff, returned to Flagstaff now for about 20 years, and I represent the county. I don't represent the county. I'm a county resident rather than a city resident.
Gotcha.
All right.
Hi, Katie. I'm Catherine Moore, and I live here in Flagstaff. I'm retired. I've been on the board, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 years. It's really interesting, and you'll be amazed at everything that goes on here. It's a lot more than you think. So glad you could join.
Okay, and then Beth.
Oh, Beth's not attending.
Okay, then can we have, so I'll introduce myself real quick. I'm Frank Garcia, and I work for Flagstaff Unified School District. And I am actually a born and bred Flagstaff person. And library has just always been something I've been always one of the loves of my life. I just love the library and books and reading and all of that. So my roots here are really deep, and I really care about this particular institution. So if we could, I may ask Starla, would you introduce yourself, and then could you please go around and ask or get the staff, since I'm having trouble seeing who's there.
Sure. I'm Starla Doss. I'm an administrative specialist here at the library and also the liaison for the library board. So you'll be hearing from me from a lot. So we have Lauren next.
Hi, I'm Lauren Comatino. I'm the interim deputy director for county services based here at the downtown library.
I'm Richard Tutwiler. I'm the deputy library director of city services. So I oversee the 2 Flagstaff libraries. Welcome.
Welcome, Katie. I'm Linda Tilson. I'm the library director, and I'm still fairly new to this position. I came in the beginning of March this year.
Okay, is that everybody in the room?
Yep.
All right. Did I miss anybody?
Folks online.
Mark Kirsten.
Oh, there's
We can do the staff online. So my name is Kirsten Pearson. I'm the executive assistant for the library. So I head up the admin team and handle most of the budgeting and that kind of back end stuff for the library. Daniel, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, I am Daniel Bell. I am the library supervisor up at the Grand Canyon.
And we have Mark as well, and Alex online.
Hi, Katie. I'm Mark Caesar. I'm the library IT manager. Me and my team support all the computing environments at all the county libraries.
Hi, I'm Alex Pichon. I am an admin specialist also at the libraries.
It's awesome to meet all of you guys. I'm very excited to get to know you and hang out with you more. Yeah, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Absolutely. And Lisa, you were reappointed to the board, so congratulations on that. Thank you for agreeing to serve again. And now we can get to the director's report, I think.
Thank you. So just wanted to highlight just a few things in my report that was sent out to you. I think one of the really exciting things is that we had 175 people come for the Eclipse program. So just wanted to give a shout out about that. And Nick Soanes in the Youth Services Department headed that up for us. And then in other large numbers, Miranda Mann taught 106th graders at Northland Preparatory Academy about library databases and how to do research using Gale resources. So some big numbers, big groups that were reached in youth services. On page 2, just wanted to mention that I don't know if any of you have used our Hoopla ebooks, but I know we do have library users in this group. So wanted to just update you a little bit and let you know that our budget for that was going to be exceeded because Hoopla is a database where it's pay per use. So every time someone checks out a book electronically on Hoopla, we are charged whatever they charge for per checkout of that particular item. So we're likely going to have to make some changes to that. But one of the things Amelia Mason is looking into, which you may remember her from last time from CMS, she presented, is making sure that if we have duplicates of any of those titles in Overdrive, which is our other ebook provider, we can block them in Hoopla because Overdrive is different. We don't get a pay per use every time. Depending on the publisher, we might have to buy another copy, and that's just too much to explain right now. But just to give you some background in what's going on with Hoopla. And then another kind of fun thing is that we're adding a new database called the A to Z World Food Database. So this should make foodies everywhere happy. And also I think is going to be probably great for students doing reports. I can remember back to my school days that you were always, part of your report was what foods are popular, and sometimes you would make the food and bring it in.
Oh, yeah.
They probably don't do that anymore, but they did.
I did when my kids were in school.
Oh, they still did, okay.
Yes, we made a lot. I made a lot of foods with them basically helping them.
So that should be a great resource to have and something new to offer the community. In staff updates, we did a second round of interviews for the deputy director position, and we have identified a candidate. And so HR is going through their processes now. They do background checks and check references and all sorts of things like that. So we're waiting to hear back. But in the meantime, this work is in the capable hands of Lauren, and she is doing a fabulous job of keeping track of what's going on with the county libraries, meeting with people from each of those places, and advocating for their needs.
Trying to.
And let's see. Oh, and then one other thing I wanted to highlight is that we were able to send 5 staff members to the Arizona Library Association conference. And that's kind of great when we can get people to those conferences. They can bring back new ideas, they can network with other people in the field, and so admin team staff worked very closely with each of the people who wanted to go, and even filled out scholarship applications so that we could send them all. So Kirsten and Alex and Starla, shout out for orchestrating all of that so we could send all those people.
It was mostly Alex and Kirsten.
Okay, Starla doesn't want any credit. Please no. And then one other thing that I would like to mention is that I did get a chance to visit the Forest Lakes Library, and of course that is the furthest out of our branch libraries. And it was kind of great to go out there and see it in person, and Hawk provided a wonderful in-depth tour for me, which didn't take long because it's very tiny. But that was great to get out there and see some of the things they're doing. And I must say, I really love his candy for reading policy. He has a little candy dish on the desk, but you don't take a piece of candy until you've read the summary of the back of a book to know what the book's about.
Oh, nice.
And then you can have a piece of candy. So I kind of love that. He said many times, you know, once a kid has read it, then they'll check it out. So I thought that was pretty fun. I'd never heard of that particular candy for reading program. So those are the main things I wanted to cover. In other breaking news, we learned this morning.
Breaking news.
Yeah. Yes, pun
Unintended.
intended. The Tuba City Library's elevator is out of operation. And the cable, I don't have an online version to share with the people online, unfortunately, but I do have a graphic of what the cable looks like.
Oh, my God.
I don't think we could get that close enough for the online people to see, probably.
It looks really bad.
Yeah.
We'll summarize.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that's a $26,000 fix. And so what we are going to do is, Kirsten has looked into the process for taking a mid-year budget request to the County Board of Supervisors, because that's our ADA access for that library. There are stairs to get in the front entry. There's no way in except to a landing where there are stairs, but to go to the upstairs part of the library or the downstairs basement, it's just stairs. So it's probably going to take about 30 days, and we've come up with some accommodations in the meantime to provide services for anyone who isn't able to get in. But I wanted to.
So they can't even get in the building?
Well, they can get in. It's sort of odd. It's an old BIA building, and there's a landing that has stairs that go up to the main part of the library with the collection. And then there are stairs that go down, and there's a meeting room down there, an office, but stairs either way. So once you're there in that landing, if you happen to be in a wheelchair or something, you.
Oh, so the elevator's right there on that landing?
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So, one thing that we talked about in our meeting this morning is that we can put some seating there so that at least if someone wanted to be in out of the elements, they could be on the landing there. Also a temporary doorbell, and then some signage letting people know, and of course curbside service. If we want to take materials out.
So they really can't get like anywhere.
The bathrooms are on that level with the landing, luckily,
Right.
so that's still accessible, but the rest of
The books are.
the books aren't, the
Nothing.
computers, nothing,
Yeah.
unfortunately, is, except for that. It's really just the bathrooms.
And I don't know if there would be Wi-Fi access down there.
There should be,
Mark?
Mark would know, but there should be.
You couldn't like put a ramp, stairs are too steep to.
Yes.
Yes, there is Wi-Fi down there.
There is Wi-Fi, okay. So if we were able to put a laptop down in that area if someone needed it.
Right.
So in the meantime, we'll just have to come up with some ways to provide an accommodation if need be. So that's all of my report. Anybody have questions or anything you want to follow up on?
I was interested about when you mentioned that food, when I saw the food database.
Oh, yeah.
I have a couple questions.
But looking forward to going.
Yeah, Judy?
Yes, thank you for the report. I just had a question on the request for the $26,000. I will, as a board supervisor, I will ask the administration to see how we can go about doing that, and if there's any way that we can either treat it like maybe a mid-year revision in our budget, or there's usually community initiative funds that people use sometimes if they ask for it. And then the other thing is there may be some funds somewhere that we could that could be used. So I'll go ahead and work on that one and see what happens. But in the meantime, it's probably going to be like a mini proposal, just 1-2 page or whatever. If you can give me that, I can get on it and see where it goes from here. But I know my that's what I was thinking when we were talking about the Tuba City Library. And then the other one is okay, old database. Okay. There was another question I had. I thought I checked it. Let's see. You were talking about the overdrive. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Some overdrive.
Yeah, Overdrive is the company that we use or we buy electronic books from.
Okay.
So that people can check out those either ebooks or audiobooks. And most of our ebook collection is through Overdrive, and Hoopla is just one other resource that does a similar thing, provides ebooks.
The other question I had was, has there ever been some kind of a distinction between the two, the ebook? I know you said that there was a need and it's costing us more, and how we may have to look at certain things. I believe you said. I was just wondering. So actually, there's two places that people check out electronically. Is that what it is, or is it just one now?
No, we still are providing both. We're probably just not going to be able to check out as many items through Hoopla.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we could do comparison. I'm not sure if that's feasible. And then as far as costs are, or maybe, just something that was going through my mind when you were talking about it. So I just wanted to bring that up, just food for thought too. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And I believe Kirsten has already contacted Siri at the county's finance department to find out how we should write up that mid-year budget request.
Yeah, that's correct. So I emailed Siri, and then Jim in facilities at the county office also CC'd Tom on that email. Tom was going to stop over and talk to Siri about possibly locating some funds, probably from similar sources that you had mentioned, Judy, like the community initiative funds and things like that. So we're working on it, and we'll get that documentation to you as soon as we can.
Okay, if I would like to be included in the loop so I can do some follow-ups for you guys too. So on my end, I would appreciate that.
Sure,
Thank you.
I'll forward you the emails.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to Daniel and Alex for the Grand Canyon Community Library presentation.
Coming back on. Hello.
Hello.
If you've seen the library before, you'll recognize that we're in a different location. This is we're in the I'm going to say old Chase Bank building now. For the moment, that's still under discussion. We were in the old schoolhouse. They're doing some construction work over there. So we've been here about 3 months, learning about the traffic patterns, both in the building and outside the building. And I was discussing with one of my temps this morning about, now that we've learned how things are working in this building, we're going to make some adjustments and a little bit more fine tuning to make it work a little bit better. So let's see, we moved here 3 months ago. It's the third time we've moved the library in the last 3 years, because we moved out for the renovation of the other building, back in, back out. So we're still trying to get some stability with that. About our library community, I was asked to say a few things about that. The library is critical to the workers here. As you know, the Grand Canyon and the Grand Canyon Village is one of the, it's kind of a unique little pocket in Coconino County, in that it's very, very remote for the people that live here and work here. Yet we have, you know, with our tourism, visitors from all over the world. I'm thinking, I had a question last week or two ago. Tourism in Coconino County, or tourism in Arizona, outstrips every other industry by about a ratio of 5 to 1. I think selling cars and insurance were about $30 billion a year, and tourism was $150 billion a year, off the top of my head, if I remember correctly. But we know that the tourism, so this is the corner, it's the Grand Canyon, it's where people come. And as far as the library services, about 50% of our patrons, our clientele, are the people that live here in the village. They use these computers behind, and they use the printers, and they use the scanners and the basic business that they need to do. And then we also get the same kind of use from our international visitors and visitors from out of state. So we get a lot of use in that area. There's a lot of people out here, because we're so remote, they don't have their own internet access. And so the internet access is very critical to that as well. And most of the community that is here is very appreciative that we're here. It's extremely unique to have a public library inside a national park. There's 1 or 2 other examples around the nation, but ours is the biggest and the longest. My understanding is the community library has been here for over 90 years. And it's been part of the Coconino Flagstaff system since January of 2007. A lot of the, especially the people that live here, we have a lot of temporary employees. And so that affects a lot of times the word of mouth and the advertising of the library, because traffic goes up, or the village population goes up in the summertime. And we have people who use the library for 2 months, 3 months, and then they're gone, very active users. So keeping up with constantly telling people that there is a library in the canyon. I had an example, partially because we're in the new building here. There was a tour guide who visited the library, was looking for something, and someone pointed them over to the library, and they sort of mentioned in their conversation that they had been here for, they had been coming to the park as a tour guide for 23 years, but last week was the first time that they had heard that there was a library in the park. And I was a little bit surprised about that. That was the longest duration that I've heard, but a lot of times people will say, I've been here 6 months, 8 months, a year, and I'm just finding out that there's a library. So as much advertising as we do, one of the things we're going to do coming up this next year is, we did it 2 years ago, and we had book bags to hand out when people check things out. We had 200 of those. Now we're going to have 600 of these to keep that advertising going. I think that's one of the biggest needs here is, people are very, very surprised to find out that there's a public library inside a national park. And that's one of the difficulties that we have to overcome. It doesn't seem natural to them, and it is different. So that's one of, I think, the difficulties that we need to overcome. That and making sure that we have continuous internet access. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'm better at answering questions like that. I'm a reference librarian.
Are there any questions for Daniel?
I do have a question. This is Corey.
Sure.
How often does the internet go out?
It's first of all, it's slow many times because of the remoteness. I don't know what the difficulties were, but in the first 2 months in this building, it was out, I'd say probably a little bit more than 50% of the time. It was very intermittent, goes up and down. And it seemed to be somewhat related maybe to the time of day, like it was a traffic issue. It's been very good for the last 2 months. Last week it was down for a tiny bit, and yesterday it was out all day. So it's intermittent about its intermittency, if that makes sense. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And we're working with IT. Mark's been helpful, but it's we're very remote out here. Part of my history is I spent 6 years living in Africa, in Mozambique and South Africa, and I've spent a little bit of time in Botswana and Namibia. And we all know that Coconino County is a very large county, the second largest county in the United States, and our population density is 7.8 people per square mile. And that's similar to places like Botswana and Namibia. Coconino County is also larger than 35 different countries in the world. We're about the same size as Denmark and the Netherlands. The Netherlands has about 17.8 million people, and we have under 200,000, and most of them live in Flagstaff. So if you pull Flagstaff out of the equation, we're about 3.5 people per square mile. So that's probably related to why we have such slow internet.
I have a quick question. I may have missed you saying this, but what sort of proportion of visitors from residents in the Grand Canyon area do you have versus visitors? Do visitors come in a lot and want to look up things even if they can't check things out, or do you not get,
All very good questions. I'd say I've never taken a particular tally, but paying attention to it, it's about 50-50. And the 50% of the visitors is split between domestic, US travelers and a lot of international travelers. And they many times have the very, very same needs. They're very happy that there is a library here. We've had people that have had to scan and fax death certificates, for instance. A lot of times, they're in the middle of their travels. They get an email, there's an emergency, they come here. Real estate transactions, legal papers, lots of examples like that. So the library does get used very heavily, both for the residents of the village and our visitors.
Is the location right there in the village now, the Chase Bank?
Yes, we're right by the post office and right by the market and by the large parking lot. I say that this location is kind of like Boardwalk and Park Place on the Village Monopoly map. It's kind of like that. It's the prime location. So,
cool.
And our traffic has pretty much doubled in the last 2 or 3 months, based on the ease that it is to find for people.
Hey, any other questions? All right. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Daniel.
Okay. Then it looks like we are on to the next opportunity, which is the vice chair vacancy.
We need to have Alex speak.
Yeah, we have Alex for the
Great.
Leah group.
I'm sorry, Alex, I apologize.
No worries.
Let's go ahead and have Alex do that. I got ahead of myself there.
Sure. Also, I also pull the stats or collate the stats, and I was curious. So, total last year, Grand Canyon had 6,069 visitors for the entire year. And so far in just July, August, and September of this year, y'all have had over 2,226 visitors. So just in those 3 months. So quite a bump up. But on to what I'm actually here to do. Hi, I will share my screen now. Okay, my name is Alex Pichon, and I am here on behalf of the Library Equity in Action, or LEA. I am the leadership liaison for LEA. So we're just going to give a brief presentation about who we are and what we do. So in August of 2020, LEA was originally named the Anti-Racism Committee, and it was created because we as library staff wanted to create a space and a time for us to work together against racism in our personal, professional lives, as well as within the library and our community. At that time, we were solely focused on anti-racism, mostly because we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves before we knew what we were getting into. And we developed the Anti-Racism Committee, and the background was that we created it in support of the City of Flagstaff's stated commitment to diversity, which is within the Code of Ethics on page 5, letter H. After a lot of discussion and votes and a lot of different ideas, we decided to update our name and our goals into the Library Equity in Action Committee. We wanted equity in there because it's defined as being fair or impartial, and it also represents the presence of values and systems that ensure fairness and justice, and we felt that was important. Our purpose is to educate, engage in library policy review, start conversation, and take collaborative action. So far, since August of 2020, we have done quite a bit, including diversity audits, assessing the library collection. We held a Day of Racial Healing event. We have had multiple library policy reviews and updates come out of those reviews. We've had biannual discussions for an APEPT-wide book club that's focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The most recent book that we discussed and read was We Were Dreamers by Simu Liu. We had an update for the Native American materials classifications, ongoing local language translations. We had a staff training day as well as professional development. And we have a partnership, an ongoing partnership with the Commission on Diversity Awareness. Focus is going to be on translation of library policies to other languages, continuing to create lasting partnerships within the community, continuing to assess Native American material for discriminatory language, inappropriate materials, and making sure that those materials are in accurate locations. Focusing on representation of Flagstaff's Black, Chicanx, Hispanic, and Indigenous histories. Staff education through the book club and defining language tied to diversity. and focusing on the library's values and strategy on creating an equitable space for our community. And here is where we would like to go. Our goals are to get leadership involved, continue to identify where we stand, where we hold biases and acknowledge and work through those. Policy review for equity and impact, continued professional development for staff, review policies and practices, again, for equity and impact. Oh, I wrote that twice. Perform a yearly review of incident reports and compile recommendations and reflective questions. Posting open workshops and forums in the community to express their needs to us. Hiring diverse staffs and connect with other institutions around these issues. Any questions? Okay, sounds good.
Frank, you're muted.
There we go. Okay. Thanks, Alex. I said thank you, but sorry for missing you on that last item. Okay, and now we are on to the vice chair vacancy, which was vacated when Carmelita left the board. Do we have anybody who's interested in assuming that vice chair vacancy? Everybody volunteer at once. What do we do if we don't have anyone step up?
Should maybe go over what the rules are? So less intimidating.
Well, as near as I can figure so far as I've been the chair, it really, the biggest task is running the meetings. The vice chair would be in charge of running the meetings should I not be here, which I usually am either able to connect. I would assume it's going to be rare that I'm not here. And Starla is wonderful about getting the agenda to me beforehand, and we go through it, add anything that we need added, or if there's any questions, then she sends it out to the board and we just work our way through the agenda. That is the biggest role I've identified thus far.
Chair Garcia, can you guys hear me? Tidy Hansen.
We can.
Hi, nice to be with you today. I'm the Economic Vitality Director. The library is one of the sections in our division. So the answer to that is if you can't get a vice chair, what will happen is Linda Tilson, our library director, would lead a meeting if you weren't able to lead the meeting, chair. So okay. If we don't get a vice chair, then our liaison, which is always our director of the section, would lead the meeting that day for you. Or she could assign it to someone like Richard. Richard, I'm kidding. But I'm not. But she could assign it to somebody else on her team, one of her deputies, to help lead that meeting as well. And just so all of you feel a little bit more at ease, if you ever were to ask to be step in, we can always the team could always give you a different agenda, and the different agenda is giving you some fun little notes on what to do so that you feel a little bit more comfortable. I mean, we can basically spell it out for you so that you don't feel worried about running the meeting. And if you do decide to run the meeting and something doesn't get said, the staff is there to make sure that they fill the rest of the commission in. So everybody has each other's back, but that's normally what would happen if you don't have a vice chair. Linda would be the default.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So given all of that, do we have anybody that would like to assume this role? As a teacher, I've got great wait time.
It's working.
I've done it for a while and it's really easy.
Okay, well, I'll put my name in the hat.
vice chair.
Okay, do I have is there anyone else that would like it? Okay, just want to make sure. And then, so given that, I need a second for Corey's nomination.
I'll second that.
Okay, and all of those in favor of having Corey assume the role of vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Congratulations, Corey, you're the new vice chair of the.
If you tell us it's really easy, then someday I'll raise my hand for that.
Yeah, it really is.
Very easy.
Just rotate, everyone gets
Yeah, really.
Okay, perfect. All right, it does not look like we have any action items. And then Corey, it looks like you've got a foundation update for us.
Let me just pull that up. There are just a couple of things. The development funds that went before the foundation for a vote last time were all approved. And the approval was based primarily on Linda's recommendations that were made in addition to the requested amounts from the different library sites and programs. Let's see. The donation letters are being signed and will be sent out soon for additional library donations for the year, library foundation donations for the year that are used to fund that fund. That are used to fund that request. Yeah, endowment, thank you. Let's see. That was it. Oh, they had election of officers, and Nat White will remain president, Larry Wasserman treasurer, and Joyce Taylor secretary. And then they won't meet again for a couple of months. So their main task for the year regarding distributing those funds and coming up with the letters to continue to fundraise are done for this year anyway. And that's it from them.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, and then are there any future agenda meeting items that anybody has thought of that would like to be added to the January meeting? All righty. And then our next, go ahead.
I don't have an agenda item, but I did want to remind people that we're changing to the fourth Thursday. So just as a reminder for January, that will take effect then.
It's at the end of the agenda also, the next library day.
Oh,
So the next meeting is scheduled for January 25th. And go ahead.
just that date, or is it always changing to the 4th?
All of them will be the 4th,
Okay.
except for November. That will probably be the 3rd Thursday because of
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
That's next year.
That was next year,
Yeah.
yes, not this year.
You get 2 meetings this week.
Come back next week.
All right, perfect. Before we go, I just want to apologize if I seemed a little scattered today. In addition to my responsibilities at the district office, I've been the acting principal at Summit High School for the last week. And so I've been doing double duty out here. So that's if I seemed a little scattered, that would be why. So with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Perfect. All those in favor? Any nays? All right, that concludes our meeting. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.